There is only one framework we talk about in all the 6 modules, and the underlying idea is actually very straightforward. It just basically says there is no such thing as a free lunch. That's the basic underlying idea behind everything in finance. We talk about pretty much all the major issues in finance over the course of 1 year, 6 courses, each 2 days, which students can take whenever it's convenient for them. So in a way, I've conceived this as a course which covers everything you need to know about the topic of finance. I look at the course from 4 different perspectives. It's not just executives at companies, though those are the primary focus of it, but the companies are basically demanders of finance. They need money to go out to invest in investment projects. They need money to build factories, to produce products that customers will buy, and so on. But the money that comes from the shareholders, who are the investors. The government sits back and regulates the whole process to make sure that neither side rips off the other. And there are financial intermediaries who help the process of this. The demanders of finance, the firms, raise the capital from the suppliers of finance, who are the shareholders. So when I'm thinking about this course, when I think of these 6 modules in the course, we try to explore it from all these different perspectives. So we look at the executives, the people who work for particular firms, what they need to do to appeal to investors, because they're trying to raise money from the investors. What kind of projects should they invest in? What is the type of capital they need to raise? Should they need to raise debt? Should they raise equity? And so on. From the point of view of the investors, who would be another group of people who would want to take the course, or financial intermediaries who are suggesting to investors what securities they invest in. How do I achieve the highest amount of return for the minimum amount of risk? Should I trust this firm when this firm comes to me and says, this is a great investment opportunity, please invest in me? But we know that he's going to say that anyway, even if he has a terrible investment opportunity. So why should I believe him? How do I know what's a good security, what's a bad security? That's from the investor's perspective. We've actually talked about the 4 different perspectives. From each of what we do is those 4 perspectives can actually be translated into 6 ideas. Those 6 ideas come back to that basic principle of no free lunch. But what the 6 ideas are net present value, which is basically the focus of our corporate investment class, tells you what sort of investment should a firm do. Suppose I've already raised the money, I need to invest in something, where do I put it in? But net present value consists of 3 components. You've got cash flows, you've got discount rates, and you have a choice of what kind of equity you're using to finance those cash flows. So for example, when you try to figure out what that discount rate is, that's the second course, portfolio management, where we look at the investor perspective. I'm trying to raise money from a particular investor. So I go to him and I say, look, I have this great investment opportunity, invest in me. And he says, why should I? He will allocate the right interest rate you need to pay him in order to persuade him to invest in you. So for a manager, managing that is very important. And also for an investor, because he wants the highest return for the risk he gets. The third idea is what combination of securities is correct. That's called capital structure theory, and that's yet another course called Raising Capital, where we talk about the combination of debt and equity to have. Final course in that same series is on options and derivatives, because those are particular types of risk management securities. So we spend 2 days on that, on how to manage risk in a particular company. We have 2 more courses, one on behavioral finance, which talks about what happens when markets are not efficient. That's our 5th idea. And then finally, an idea on corporate governance, which talks about what happens because managers have their own agendas and investors have their own agendas. So how do we reconcile everything into a common framework? You get the Cambridge Financial Management Certificate of Achievement. That is basically a certificate awarded to you if you take 4 out of the 6 modules available. Now, you can take all 6. That'll give you an exposure to the entirety of finance. But if you're interested, for example, only in corporate finance, you would take naturally the modules on corporate investment. You would take the module on portfolio management, on raising capital, and on corporate governance. If, on the other hand, you were looking for the investor's point of view, if you're interested in wealth management, for example, you would take the course on portfolio management, you would take the course on options and derivatives, behavioral finance, and probably, again, corporate governance. So depending on what you're interested in, if you're looking at the corporate side or the investor side, you would choose a set of 4 out of these 6 modules. And essentially, at the end of the day, you would end up with a pretty comprehensive knowledge of everything in your field.